Today is the last working day of 2022. I figured I would shoot a video about today's project. It's kind of a quiet little spot out here. There's not really anybody close by, so it's a perfect job to film. I work on this Cat 336E right here behind me. Let me turn the camera around here and I'll show you what's going on. So it's a nice little quiet sunrise is kind of coming up here. We're outside of Mesquite today. And the job is this Cat 336E. There's not really anybody around, so there's a working crew over there, but they're kind of far away, so nice little quiet spot. So we got to do the propel motor hoses. I actually just did this side. I think a couple months ago I just did those, so these ones finally blew. But these ones actually blew differently. Usually they rub on the frame here, like under here. This is hollow, so they usually rub inside there. But this one right here, it blew out right here. There's a big hole right here on the backside. So these are the two drive hoses. I always get this mixed up. So these are the two drive hoses. I think this one's case drain or this one's case drain. I can never remember. And then one controls the high speed. So one switches the speed, one's case drain, and then these two are travel. So the oil switches directions depending on the travel. One thing that I actually really like better on a Cat versus a deer is on these flange. So these are Cat flange, but they use like cap screws. So this is just an 18mm headed bolt, as where on the deers they use Allens, which sometimes is a pain in the butt to get the Allens in. You can't get the right angle, or you got to take something else off. Where these, you can use a socket or wrench. There's a lot more options. So I cleaned out all the dirt, and this was kind of dirty up here. So first thing I'm going to do is just clean all this out and then get these off. One thing that does kind of suck about this job is there's a belly pan actually up underneath there. I'll take you out and show you. You have to take that off, as where the deers, there's no belly pan, it's just open, so it makes it a little easier. And I think this one's bent too, so I might actually have to bend it back to get it on, so that makes it a little difficult. Well, I'll take you along today and show you what I got. So I brought along with me, I brought a piece of plywood. That way I can lay it underneath there, because it gets kind of messy. There's the new hoses. So I don't know if you can see, but they got oil. It's all covered in oil under here. So when these blow, they fill this cavity with oil, so then it makes a mess. That's the worst part about this job, is just the mess. All right, let me get this all cleaned up here and get these hoses off, and I'll show you what I come up with. Both hoses out. So when we do this job, we always do both hoses, because you're already here, so you might as well just do them both. That way, if one's failed, the other one's failed. So this is the one that was failed. It's actually worn. It's actually worn quite a bit in a couple spots here. This one was the top hose, and it's not really worn all that bad, but we still replace it. But then here's the little culprit right here. It's all blown out. Oh, no, you can't see it. There you go. There's the culprit. It's all blown out. So then this is the top hose I have run through. It's tied up on the other end. It's secured, but I got to clean this mating surfaces here and put this one on. And I'll run the other hose, and then I'll take you underneath and show you what it looks like. So we got both the hoses in. So the top hose is done. All the bolts are tight. So the bottom hose, this side's tight, but the other side's not. So anytime I have a flange hose that doesn't have two straights on it, I always start the side. If you can, sometimes you can't, but this one you can. You start the side that has the angle fitting, so it's in there. The clamps are tight, or clamps are in it, and the bolts are finger tight. That way you can move the hose around. So then you put the straight side on, tighten it, and that'll set the angle on the angled side. Now you can just go underneath there and tighten the bolts on the angled side. So this is all done. Hose ran through. I need to put a couple zip ties, but I'll get to that in a minute. Let's crawl underneath there, and I'll show you what's going on under there. Okay, so this hose right here is tight. That's the top hose on the motor, and then this one You can actually probably see that the clamp's not tight. So, but the other side is. So then it sets the angle for that fitting. So now I gotta clean up this hose a little bit. It's got a little bit of a kink in it, and then I'll tighten that fitting right there. So this is all how it works. Cat calls these swivel. Deere, I think, calls it like a rotation manifold or something, but it's basically, there's chambers in there, so it puts oil in the top, and then each one has a chamber. So this is for one side, that's for the other side, and then this is that big hose, and then the little hose is right there, and it goes in the top. Just puts the oil in, and then it just chambers it. There's seals and stuff. You can reseal these. I've actually never personally resealed these, but I've seen them done. So that's all how it works. Let's get it back together, and then we'll test it. On. All the hoses are tight. So the oil guys put oil in it, but I still want to check to make sure that it's got oil in it, just because. So if you look right here, see there's a little chart. It shows how the machine should be set up. So the machine should be, stick should be basically vertical, bucket should be on the ground, and then that's full. Or full is between, I don't know if you can see that, but there's 3 marks. There's one here, there's one here, and there's one here. So full is basically anywhere between these 2 marks, but ideal is center. So see how the machine is set up? So any machine should have a chart on how to set the machine up. So the stick's vertical, it doesn't have a bucket, it's got a coupler, but it's flat. You want to make sure that the machine is set up the way the picture shows, because if you have the stick or the boom a different way, then the oil level might be wrong. Alright, so I had it running, no leaks. So what I'm going to do is I got to cut that zip tie, put this panel back on, it's just right here, and then I'm going to clean up all the tools, and I'm going to track this machine back, because those panels right there, that's the belly pan cover, they're bent, and I remember last time they were real hard to get on, but I couldn't straighten them last time, so I couldn't track the machine because it was out of oil, but it's got oil in it, so I'm going to track it and see if I can straighten those with the coupler. So I got that back, and then I straightened these. I think I straightened this one a little bit too much, but it should be fine. So I'm trying this a different way, because this is really the worst part about doing these hoses, is trying to get these belly pans back on, because they're so heavy, and it's just, there's not really a good way to do it. So I got them up on blocks, so I'm going to track the machine back forward. So this one has to go on first, and then this one goes over there, but then you got to line all the bolts up. So we'll try this, and I'll see what happens.